For the Minecraft movie, the props department created a real-life Minecraft sword.
You got yourself a sweet blade.
Inspired by the game's pixel-bound aesthetic. And from the moment that I saw it on the screen, I knew I had to have one. But with no official replicas available other than this one, I was going to have to make it myself. So, with a bunch of DIY resources, I went to my crafting table, hoping to create something awesome. The first step is to replicate what looks like a very complex design. You've got these intricate little square tiles layered over each other, tapering down into this thin knife edge. It's still got that blocky Minecraft style, but actually looks like something that might be able to hurt you. I kind of like that. This led to a lot of measuring, estimating, and way too much time just staring at the movie stills. And then I had what I think is a really good idea. What if I treated each of those layers of squares as a layer of ply and cut it out on a laser cutter? So you'd have layers like a 3D print that basically built up on top of each other, but you could create that kind of knife edge look from cutting it out like this. And then all I would have to do is create a base layer, the next layer, and the next layer, and so on, and it would build up to create the sword effect. So, let's give that a go. So cue many hours of laser cutting. It's worth noting that a lot of effort goes into measuring this. The main pieces took me a long time, but now I'm at the hilt, and there's lots of little intricate pieces, and so I'm trying to look at the pictures that I have online from the movie, and then I'm trying to look at what I've built as my base to figure out where those little blocks live. A bit of trial and error and a lot of intense focus. I'm hoping this is the last cut that I have to do. It's taken a little bit of time, but the results are very rewarding. That is a lot of pieces that I've just cut with my laser cutter, and I will put all of the plans for this up on creativegeekery.com, listed down here. All you have to do is just sign up to our email list and you'll get access to all the resources that I'm using here. So with all this laid out here, it's time to do a quick build and see how this looks together, just by placing the pieces on top of each other. I am incredibly pleased with that. How cool does that look? Dang, I'm so excited to glue this thing together and get it working because it's giving me the vibes. Now there is one thing that I would like to try doing before I glue all of this together, which is to see if I can sand a bevel onto the edges of this wood. If you look at the shots in the film, you'll see that it's kind of sharpened at the edge. I don't want to do it too much because I don't want to break this down that much. And again, I saw props in the film that didn't have that sharp edge, of course, because there are a whole range of props when you build a sword. The props that are the hero shots are the one that Jack Black holds up. That's definitely a hero prop for close-up work. The swords that they're holding when they're fighting and other things are probably foam and softer. So there's a range of different edges to these. But I'm just going to give it a subtle sand and see if I can just create a little bit of a bevel. Just a tiny bit. So now the grinding of the edges is done to make it look a little bit more knife-like. It's time to start sticking this together. And I'm going to use some 5-minute epoxy to do the base sticking, just to stick the pieces together because of the speed that I need to go. And then after that, I'm going to come in with some filler to kind of, fill any gaps, because there will be some. So yeah, let's start with the gluing first. And this is going to take a bit of time. So after a little bit of faffing around, as I like to call it, I've been able to get half of the sword done. And I'm using these weights to push down on the wood, because often when you use this ply that I'm using here for laser cutting, it's one of the things I find really annoying. And please send me information in the comments below if you're more acquainted with this than me, but often the ply is bowed, and so it requires some effort to keep it flat. And what I don't want is a sword that is all kind of squifty. Here's an example. I don't know if you can see how bowed that is. Look, if you look at it. So yeah, I'm making sure that I'm putting plenty of pressure on here. But as you can see, this first half is together. Now I've just got to let this dry, and I'll probably flip it over and do the other side. If you're enjoying this video, hit the subscribe button for more content just like this. We do everything from prop making to visiting movie locations to talking with other creatives about their passion for making, building, and pop culture. Go on, just hit subscribe. Look at how great this is looking already. I am so pleased with this. This is super exciting. I'm at the final part of gluing these bits on the hilt, but I realized there's something missing. This piece here. I have to go back to the laser cutter and just create this final piece so that everything on the hilt looks exactly like it should. There's always something you miss, but I'm trying very hard to get this as close as I can to what we see in the film.
A few moments later.
Oh, look at that. So good. I think that's it. I think that's the last piece. Right. Let's glue it together. Oh, I'm really happy with this. Okay, so it is looking great. Now, one of the aspects of gluing something together from multiple layers is, of course, you get this slightly uneven edge. I don't know if you can see this here. So what I need to do now to make this look like one piece is a little bit of sanding on these edges to try and bring them into line. Nice. And then, in some of the harder to reach places like this, I'm going to use a bit of filler. Now I've got to let it dry, so I'm going to leave this overnight and come back to it in the morning and sand it.
Day 2.
And it's dry. Let's sand it. So I've been sanding for about 30 minutes now with these tiny emery boards here, partly because I had to get into all of these little crevices and cracks. And so this is not a fast process to get this smooth. And of course, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this with a primer, and then I'm probably going to have to sand it again. So there's a couple of steps to getting this sprayed. I'm going to put some adhesion promoter on there because of the surface, because of the charred edges and just the mix of materials. The adhesion promoter will help the spray paint to stick to it better. So I'm going to do a couple of hits of that. And then after that, I'm going to go in and put a base coat on. Okay, so spraying this looks like it's going to be as fun as sanding it. All the little points that stick down, the way I've got this laid up right now, the paint runs down them and collects at the bottom, even though I'm doing the lightest of coats. I might have to lay this flat to paint it. Urgh. Okay, it's come out really well. A little bit of detailed sanding, and then onto our paint job. I've masked up the handle here because the rest of the blade is going to be sprayed with a chrome paint. And then the handle I will paint to look like wood, even though it is wood. I'm very pleased with this. It's already looking great. I love doing these projects where you're like, oh, that looks cool. I want to make one of those, and then you get to hold it. All right, let's get to spraying. I should note that the paint that I'm using for this is this Rust-Oleum metallic finish, and it's actually very, very good for creating a metallic effect compared to other spray paints. It really does look like a shiny metal. All right, I've almost got myself a sweet blade.
You got yourself a sweet blade.
But there's just a couple of things left to do. Handle, and obviously I need to give this thing some distressing and aging to make it look more like the one in the movie. But I'm actually quite pleased with that. There's a few little paint jobby bits that if I had a little bit more time I'd go over again, but actually in general it's looking great. So let's age it. To paint this, I'm using regular acrylic paint, and I'll put a link in the description below. And then I'm just stippling it on with a brush to get it into the right parts. And the bits that I wanted to be more gold, I've done a very thin layer of acrylic paint. It's just really a process of going in over and over and over again. But I'm already very pleased with how it's coming together. This is a brown pass. I'm going to go in with a black pass then, because really it's good to put more than just one color. And of course, the other side is completely unfinished. So it's really interesting to see the difference between the two. You're like, oh, I mean, that looks great. It looks really shiny and clean, but I want it to look used like in the film, because remember, we're trying to create the film prop. Also, one of my favorite parts down here is at the bottom of the hilt. I'm just really pleased with how that came out. And now that there's wood between the two of them, it's looking great. Right, let's get it finished. So what I'm doing now with the second color is I'm pushing black into the very corners where dirt might catch. And then I'm rubbing it out with a dry brush afterwards and kind of pulling it off the shiny surface. So as you can see, I'm just putting a little bit in here. I've got the brush as dry as I possibly can, putting the black in, and then I'm using this dry brush to kind of pull it out and a little bit push it kind of further into there. So if you see, it's kind of just pulling it out again. Here is the final result. I am super happy with how this turned out, particularly with how the process of layering these different layers of ply has really come together, and that it actually now looks like a finished piece of metal. To learn more about making your own movie props, you're going to want to check out one of these two videos. Yep, in fact, I'm just going to stay here staring at you until you choose one of these videos. Feeling uncomfortable yet? I would be.